In the heart of Harlem, on January 21st, 2022, a tragic event unfolded that would forever impact New York City. Two NYPD officers, Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora, were ambushed and fatally shot while responding to a domestic violence call. Good cops do not last. It's so easy for a good cop to lose their lives. And that is what happened in this episode. This tragic incident also left a third officer, Officer Anastasios Tsaskos, involved, and the shooter Lashawn McNeil, who would later pass away after being pulled from life support. The tragedy did not just impact the NYPD, it shook the city and its residents. In today's episode, we delve into the sequence of events, focusing on the fallen officers, the suspect, and the aftermath of this shooting. Additionally, we will examine the role of Summit Sullen, a key figure who was involved and whose actions added complexity to the unfolding tragedy. It was a typical winter evening when the call came into the NYPD. Officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora, both young and dedicated members of the NYPD, responded to a domestic dispute call at an apartment on West 135th Street in Harlem. The situation was concerning, with reports that the suspect, Lashawn McNeil, was threatening his mother. Officer Rivera, only 22 years old, and Officer Mora, 27, arrived at the building around 6 p.m. with the goal of resolving a tense situation. McNeil's mother and brother were already outside when they arrived. Officer Tsaskos was speaking with them. However, after talking with the family, the officer proceeded to the apartment to speak with McNeil, unaware of the deadly ambush awaiting for them. Once inside, the officers were caught off guard. McNeil, armed with a .45 caliber handgun, shot both officers. Rivera was struck in the chest, while Mora was shot in the head. The scene was chaotic, and officers on the outside, including Officer Tsaskos, rushed in to assist. At the time of the ambush, Officer Anastasios Tsaskos had been speaking with McNeil's family, his mother and his younger brother, outside the building. His conversation of McNeil's mother and brother had been a routine part of the call, but when the gunshots rang out, Tsaskos quickly rushed inside. This third officer, Tsaskos, would become instrumental in preventing a further tragedy, despite the traumatic scene he witnessed as he found his fallen colleagues. Meanwhile, the involvement of Summit Sullen, a key figure in the case, would later add complexity to the shooting. Sullen, while not directly involved in the shooting, played a significant role in understanding McNeil's motivations and his relationship with his family. The relationship dynamics between McNeil and his family, including his mother and brother, had been tense. In the aftermath of the shooting, investigators worked to understand how McNeil's actions had escalated and led to the ambush. And Officer Summit Sullen's involvement shed a light on the struggles McNeil had been facing in the lead up to the incident. He was one of the officers responding to the shooting. Jason Rivera tragically died at the scene of the shooting. His body was initially taken to the office of the Chief Medical Examiner, OCME, on 26th Street, where it was examined. Rivera's death was a blow to the NYPD and the city at large. As the city mourned, the police force was left to grapple with the loss of one of their own, someone who had been on the job for less than a year. Then Wilbert Mora, despite his critical injuries, was rushed to the Harlem hospital. After initially being treated there, his condition worsened, and he was transferred to NYU Langone Medical Center for further care. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, Mora was pronounced dead on January 25, 2022, 4 days after the shooting. His family, colleagues, and the city held on to hope during those 4 days, but the injuries were too severe. Lashawn McNeil, after shooting the officers, was also taken to the Harlem hospital. He was treated for his injuries, but was declared brain dead on January 23rd, the following day. After being taken off life support, McNeil passed away. The funerals of Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora were an emotional and somber occasion, with thousands of mourners, including fellow officers, citizens, and dignitaries, coming together to honor their sacrifice. The Riverdale Funeral Home, located on Broadway Street, hosted the mortuary services for Officer Rivera. His visitation took place at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan on January 21st. A mass was held at the cathedral on the 28th, and Rivera was laid to rest at the Ferncliff Cemetery in Hartselle, New York. He had only been with the NYPD for a short time, but his death left a lasting impact on his family, friends, and colleagues. Like Rivera, Officer Mora's funeral services were held at the Riverdale Funeral Home. His visitation took place at St. Patrick's Cathedral on January 25, 2022, followed by a memorial mass on February 1st, 2022. Mora was laid to rest at the Calvary Cemetery in Queens, New York. His death, after battling for his life for several days, left a deep sense of loss within the NYPD and the city itself. Lashawn McNeil's funeral services were vastly different from those officers. On January 24, 2022, a private visitation was held for McNeil at the Owens Funeral Home in Harlem. The following day, a committal service was conducted, and McNeil was cremated. His services were kept private, and the details of his death were kept within his family's inner circle. Despite the tragic events, McNeil's passing was met with a little public mourning, reflecting the tense feelings of anger and loss that followed his attack on the officers. The deaths of Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora were a stark reminder of the dangers in law enforcement that are faced every day. The ambush-style shooting left an indelible mark on New York City and the NYPD. Rivera's death in particular struck a chord because of his youth and his promising future as a police officer. Mora, a dedicated officer, had fought valiantly to survive his injuries, but ultimately succumbed to the brutal attack. In the aftermath, conversations about police safety, the risks officers face, and the mental health challenges of both law enforcement and individuals in high-crime neighborhoods gained national attention. The role of Officer Summit Solon, though indirect in the actual shooting, highlighted the strained family dynamics that often play a role in incidents like these, reminding us that many of these tragedies are compounded by issues of mental health, poverty, and dysfunction. While the city mourned the loss of two brave officers, the investigation into McNeil's motivations and the circumstances leading to the shooting was just the beginning. It became clear that McNeil had a history of violence, and his troubled relationship with his family played a significant part in the tragedy. As we remember the lives of officers Jason Rivera and Wilbert Mora, we must also reflect on the impact of violence on communities and the toll it takes on both law enforcement and those they are sworn to protect. Their deaths will never be forgotten, and their bravery will continue to inspire those who wear the badge. Lashawn McNeil's death, while tragic, serves as a reminder of the complexities of crime and the deep-seated issues that lead to such violent confrontations. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We remember the fallen officers, honor their service, and continue to reflect on the lessons learned from this tragic day. Stay tuned for more stories on Strawberry Ink. Have a good rest of your day. And may these officers and the suspect rest in peace.